What's up? What's up? It is time for music theory lesson number 2, and this is going to be on note names. This is treble clef and bass clef, C-L-E-F, note names. Let's dive in. Okay, let's look at your first worksheet here. All of these worksheets you're going to find have a lot of the answers up here at the top. The answers are there. For now, that's because you're going to have to refer up here to this area until it's memorized in your brain. It's sort of like when you were in elementary school and you had a number line on the top of your desk, so you could refer to that to figure out the spaces between numbers. Same thing. So for now, I want you to think about two things. Like, you can use this for this worksheet. However, when you take a quiz on this, you need to know some tricks to be able to do this type of worksheet without having this. And I'll tell you what those are. So first of all, reading from the top, a clef appears at the beginning of each staff. The clef shown here is a treble clef. That's what it is. That's what it looks like. One of the tricks that you will learn is that this could also be called the G clef, and I'll show you why shortly. Each name on the treble clef staff has a letter name, and so here we are. This is your number line, if you want to think of it that way. Now, each of these pitches has these names only because of this clef. This is like a compass rose, showing where north, south, west, and east is. In this case, this is showing what lines and spaces on the staff are going to get particular names because of the clef. That's very important. This starts by asking you just to draw some. Once again, I don't expect these to be perfect, but you should make a fairly good effort, right? So right here it says start here, and it shows that area. And that's how I like to start these, is I start on the second line, where we count bottom to top, and I just make a little loop around that second line, okay? So that's the first part. I expect most of you to be able to draw better than that. That's terrible. After that, the second part, you just learn to bring it up, loop it around, and bring it all the way down, and then, I don't know, some little curly thing down here at the bottom. So there's step 1. Step 2 is I continue up, I make a loop, bring it down, and I like to do that little dot, but you can just, do the little backwards J if you want to. So it asks you to draw 5 of them. So practice, do this with a pencil so that if you screw up, you can erase and start back over again. Writing music, a lot of this has to do with how it looks. We do want these to look pretty close to the real thing. All right, so there you go. After that, it's asking you to draw another treble clef at the beginning of the staff and then write in the letter name of each note. You can do this one of two ways after you draw your clef. You can just go back and forth looking at which line or space and then checking up here and saying, okay, so that's an F. Or you can use some of the tricks that you need to learn for doing this without looking up here. You want to try to do as many of these as you can without looking at the key and then checking the key to see if you were right. Okay, here's the first 2 tricks. From bottom to top, you can think about the lines spelling out a certain phrase and the spaces spelling out something. So for the lines, we have E. Oh, I didn't want to actually draw on that. Where's that guy? Here we go. We have E, G, B, D, F. And everybody has different mnemonic devices for this. What I learned was every good boy deserves fudge. But if you hate boys, you could do other things. You could do even George Bush drives fast. You could do empty garbage before dad flips. You could do eat grapes but don't fart. Whatever you want, as long as you can remember it without having to write it down. So whatever one of those you like, I like every good boy deserves fudge. With that, you can go back down here to number 2 and just find the ones that are on lines and use that, okay? So first of all, we have this guy. That's the bottom line. Without looking up here, I'm thinking every good boy. So that's obviously E for every, and I put it in. And then I find the next line. The next note that's on a line is the second line up. So every good, that's a G. The next one, every good boy deserves, so that's a D, etc. That's what I like to do. For the spaces, bottom to top, we have F, A, C, E. All you have to memorize is face in the space. Face in the space. So this one here, we got face in the space, F, A, C, so that's going to be a C, etc. And then I just do the rest of them that way. All right, moving on. For number 3, it's asking you to draw in a note for that letter. So we're just doing the opposite of what you just did, but you need to use the same technique. So this first one is an A, so I'm thinking, okay, we got every good boy deserves fudge. There's no A there, so that's part of face in the space. F, A, C, E, right? So I'm putting my A note head right there, all right? Same thing for most of these. Just check both of your memorized terms and draw where it fits. Some notes can have two spots, right? Like an F could be face in the space. It could also be the end of every good boy deserves fudge. So you can choose which one you want to do and just draw one of them. Okay, number 4. Write the treble clef at the beginning of the staff, write the letter name for each note, then circle the higher note in each pair. So same as number 2, except that you're circling the higher note. It's reviewing high and low from the last lesson that we did. Okay, number 5, write the name for each note, then circle the lower note in each pair. So same thing, just circling the lower note. Now, keep in mind, I still want you to keep drawing in these clefs like it asks you to. Make sure you read all of the instructions. Okay, that is the treble clef sheet. You flip it over, and we have bass clef. It's the same thing, just with a different clef. Treble clef is for instruments or parts of instruments that are higher notes. Bass clef is for, as you can guess, notes that are lower. Instruments that are lower, like bass guitar and trombone and tuba, the left hand of piano. Treble clef would be for the right hand of piano and guitars, flutes, trumpets, saxophones, things like that. Okay, so same thing. We are drawing 5 clefs. This one's easier. You just make sort of a, I don't know, what is that, a backward C. And then make sure on these 2 dots that you surround the 4th line. And I'll show you why in a second. They have to surround the 4th line. If you draw them somewhere else, that's incorrect. The reason for this is because if you were to connect those, that would make a letter F. This is called sometimes the F clef. And the reason for that, and people think that this might have been made this way on purpose at the beginning, is that this note right here, that those 2 dots surround, is the letter F. Mind blown. If you go back to the last